Thank you for another hug. I appreciate it. You going to preach for me today too? Give me a Father's Day off? No? Okay. So, when I was first reading today's readings, I was all set to get into the suffering and endurance and everything else section, right? Because we love our suffering. I even thought about going into full Yoda voice, right? Like, fear leads to, anger, which leads to the dark side, and how we get to the bad part when we have suffering. And I was reading a book this week, talked about this guy who went to his 50th high school reunion. And he showed up, and he's talking to his wife, and he just goes, "We're at the wrong place. There's all these old people here." And she looked at him and went, "Yeah, and you're one of them." But his point was that he's talking to all of these people he knew all these years ago, and they weren't talking about the present, weren't talking about the future. They're talking about all these past stories. And not only that, they're talking about all their medications they were on. Because we love our medications, right? We can boast about those quite a bit. Boasting of our suffering becomes all the more fun with every passing year. But is it actually all that much fun? You see, something also was brought up to me when me and my other pastors, which was that it's not only the suffering part that has 4 parts to it. There's another as well. It starts off with faith. Faith, which is putting all of our trust in God. A faith that says that, God, you are the one who has control of it all, and I get to just be a part of it. A faith that's not even our own work. After all, faith cannot be logicked into, can it? If we just logic people into faith, we'd have no problem with all of the world being perfect Christians, right? Because we just use our logic and we'd be set. That's not how it is. Instead, faith is this wonderful gift that is given to us. A freedom that says we're able to let go of all these fears, let go of all this desire to control. A faith that can say, God, you have given me great potential. God, you have given me skills. I'm going to use those to the very best of my abilities, and I'm going to hand over the results to you and not worry. For I know if I do what I am meant to do, what's meant to be will be. I don't need to live in fear. And from faith, it goes into peace. The same peace that allows us not only to have peace within ourselves, but peace amongst each other, does it not? For just as we were loved ahead of time, just as God has loved us and forgiven us, we're able to go out into love. It'll go out and forgive. It'll go out and share this wonderful life with others. Caps, go sit down with Mommy, okay? Go sit down. No. Okay, can you sit still right there then? Thank you. But it's peace that allows us to have a life that is not so wrapped up in all the negatives. This peace that might say, yes, I have suffering in my life, but it doesn't need to define me. Which goes into grace. This grace that says to us, you are loved and you are forgiven, and it's completely free of charge. This grace that we experience in the waters of baptism, when we are born anew, where each and every day we can go out and experience that. This grace that we experience every time that it rains, which we've been experiencing grace a whole lot lately. as my yard is eternally a swamp. We have to figure out what is the day we can finally cut the grass without the lawnmower just sinking into everything. And the grace to look at our neighbors as well and say, yeah, your yard isn't cut either. And that's okay. But it's grace that we can experience each day as we take a shower or a bath. Each day that every time water is poured upon us, we may experience this love. And a grace that is met each time we come up to the table to receive the Lord's body and blood. Remember that God gave freely to us. That God took all this suffering for us. So we have to sit back and wonder, am I good enough? And all of this leads into hope. A hope that says that the future will be brighter. Oh, thank you. Pete the Cat, good book. A hope that says that we don't have to worry so much. A hope that looks and says there are great possibilities each and every day. See, the problem of focusing on the suffering part of this passage is that we get a lot stuck into our sufferings, don't we? We stop being able to see a positive future. We stop being able to see the possibilities. Instead, all we see is the pain that we are in. And it's only in the light of this hope that suffering can meet good. Where suffering can see the bright future ahead of us and see that bright light and think that this is the light of Christ and not the light of the train at the end of the tunnel coming to hit me. We have a life that is filled with possibility. And so often we focus on the suffering. Think in your own lives right now. Where is there a point in your life? What part of your life right now are you focusing on the suffering? And you can't seem to get on to the next parts, which are the endurance and the character and the hope. Where are you right now where you're just going, I can't move forward? And think, what would it look like in that moment to think about faith instead? To look at the trust that we ought to have in God instead. To focus on the promises that God has given us. This perfect Father who says that I'm going to carry you along the way. I'm going to support you. I will give you strength. I will give you power. I will give you comfort. And I will give you peace. Where is that moment? What part of your life? Maybe right this second you're saying, I'm just fantastic. Blessings on you for that. For the next few seconds I'm going to give you all, if your life is immaculate and perfect right now, think about a time maybe in the past where it wasn't that way. Where you're stuck and not able to look with the eyes of faith. So take a few seconds now. I'm going to stop talking, which is hard for me, I know. But take a few seconds and ponder that question of where can you see a more faithful, joyful, peaceful life? Lord, help us this day. Help us every day to live in faith, to live in peace, to live with grace and hope. It can be easy for us to focus on our sufferings, even going all the way back to Cain and Abel, focusing on the suffering of jealousy. Help us to see the hope and the bright future that you have. Help us to live in peace with ourselves and with others. This day and always, may we see you guiding us. May we feel the strength that you give us. And may we live in hope. Amen. Amen.